yesterday I did a video and I'm pointing out, here are all the trades that have gone down around the NBA, and whether it's the Karl Anthony Towns trade or it's DeJounte Murray going. By the way, I don't know if we should be talking about DeJounte or Daniels over in Atlanta, but I listen the newest one. Okay, Dennis Schroeder, and they don't have to give up a first rounder to the Golden State Warriors. I think the point was, well, something's got to get done because I don't think this roster is good enough. I'm gonna end it here with this, and I'm gonna just throw some names out your way. And I like what you said when you said, hey, is Jonas Valanciunas and Malcolm Brogdon good enough? I don't know if they're good enough, but I would tell you that I feel like that would be something where at least Laker fans would feel like, okay, hey, this doesn't look the exact same.
We are right. We got something.
We got something. They are addressing something of, okay, here's another big that can play with AD. I'm a fan of Malcolm Brogdon. You know, some people might like him, some people might not. Now, injury history and everything else that he's had. But I'm going to throw some names your way, and you just tell me if you think players, as I list out a player, you tell me a good fit with the Lakers or not. Walker Kessler, you think that's a player that would be a good fit for the Lakers?
You know, I'm still curious to see what Walker Kessler is going to be. I think he's still really young in his career. I don't know if you want to be having like a development project at center with this team. I understand why. You kind of think about him being a future piece, post LeBron, all that type of stuff. But I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in his basket.
How about Jeremy Grant?
Jeremy Grant, I think his contract is going to be too much to be someone to take on. Like we just talked about how
not realistic.
He's $35 million. Do you want to send out 3 players to go get him when he's not a shooter and you have all that money on the books long term? I wouldn't be going there either.
How about Bruce Brown?
Bruce Brown makes more sense to me. He's an expiring contract, so you'd have to be more aware, let's say, of what he's going to want moving forward and be optimistic and confident on your ability to re-sign him long term. There's plenty of conversations to be had behind the scenes to make that happen. But I think from a positional fit, he can't, when he has been shooting, successfully, he's been a plus 3-point shooter. He's had years around 40%. The concern with him, though, is he hasn't played this year, and he had injury stuff dating back to last year. Like, do you want to go out and bring in someone who has not been healthy? That'd be a fearful thing for me.
Final name I'll throw at you, and then we'll call it a day here. And I appreciate your time, Kuz. What do you think of Kuz coming back?
Kuz probably makes the most sense to me of all these guys because he can play up a couple positions. He's not the 5 you want to put next to Anthony Davis, but he could play some small ball 5 in certain lineups and what have you. He's handled the LA spotlight before. He knows the championship expectations. I think he'd be kind of really energized by that situation. And he's not making so much. I think he's around he's around like 22, right? So he's probably the one of all these guys that I think makes the most sense.
Jake, great stuff, brother. I appreciate you taking some time here in the morning, and we got to do this again. I know as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline, it'll be fun to kind of see what's happening around the league. But thank you for the time. I appreciate it, and we'll link up your Substack and Steinline and everything else you're doing on the bottom of the video. So thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, that is Jake Fisher right there. Great stuff from him. All right, now we keep the show moving here. I know typically I don't have a guest that early, but him and I were, working on trying to find a time that worked. So it's like, get on in here. Okay, interesting. I think a couple things I'll take away from it. I know there's a lot of comments here. I'll get to your guys' comments in a little bit. I think the reason why I wanted to do this, and I just wanted to talk trades. I just wanted to talk, the Lakers front office, and I just wanted to talk what could happen. There's a couple of reasons. I think the timing of it is after December 15th, there were players that now were going to be available. And some of those players already traded, Dennis Schroeder, but there's other guys out there that are now available. The next key date to look at is January 15th. But to me, it is clear that the Lakers got to make a move. Clear. I mentioned this when I started the show. Go look at the video yesterday that I put out there specifically on Rob Pelinka. And I think a lot of Laker fans feel the same way. I understand the Lakers want to be frugal. I understand the Lakers want to make sure, hey, we got 2 first rounders. We got to be very smart about it. But something in the conversation with Jake that popped up, Pelinka hasn't helped himself with over-promising and under-delivering. Guys, we only got one first-rounder right now. In the summer, we're going to have 3. Okay, cool. But don't say that unless you know you're going to be making a move. What I would say if I'm Rob Pelinka is we're going to have 3 first-rounders in the offseason. And at the end of the day, we might have 3 first-rounders by the time the offseason is done. We can't just go out there and make moves to make moves. We got to do things that make sense for the short term and the long term. But there has been a little bit, at least for me, there's been a little bit of, okay, well, what's the game plan then? If you're sitting in the middle, if you're sitting around 8th, 9th, 10th in the Western Conference, it's not where you want to be. And that's not, you're not a team that has a legitimate chance of competing. All right, let's take a look at some of these comments here. And then I want to go back to a couple of things that I saw right before the show started. Magic talked about not taking Jason Tatum. That's still a conversation. So we got to get into that as well. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. See what happens, guys? I get a guest on. I forget about everybody. You know what I mean? It's like I invite you guys to my house. You guys are already over there. Then a guest comes. I go into a separate room, and I'm just hanging out with the guests. My apologies. My apologies to everybody. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Want to see what we got here. Sucks that Kuz is the most realistic trade. Kuz is a diva. I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't know if I need to see Kyle Kuzma 2.0. I think I'm good on Kuz. I think there's other players that I would rather see. I think there's some other players that I would rather see before I'd rather see Kyle Kuzma. The Walker Kessler thing, to be honest with you, I don't mind Walker Kessler. I know he's 23 years old, and I get the idea and the concept that I get the idea and the concept of he's so young. Are you developing him at a time where you're not looking to develop guys? I get that portion, but I'd take my chances with that. I'm a fan of Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know how many games he's played this year, but I'm definitely a fan. I'm gonna put this here real quick. I'm gonna give you guys an idea. I'm gonna share something with you guys. My guy, Jovan Buha, dude's killing it, man. That guy's not surprised at all. I remember there was a time, this was years ago. I want to say Jovan was actually, if I'm correct, I think he was still covering the Clippers at the time. I remember, and him and I grabbed after a Laker game. It was maybe a Lakers-Clippers game. Him and I grabbed some dinner across the street. And this was probably 5-6 years ago. So I wasn't even deep into my radio career, at least behind the mic. I remember just looking at Jovan and just kind of hearing him, and he's so super young. I'm like, this guy's going to freaking kill it. He's killing it. Jovan put this out there. Lakers have been linked to. NBA Central took something that he either had in his article or in his podcast. Lakers have been linked to players such as Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, Bruce Brown, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Kyle Kuzma. I'm going to read this here. Other names that have come up in talks with team and league personnel over the last few weeks include Kessler, Sexton, Bruce Brown, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams III, Kyle Kuzma. Lakers are not anticipated to be heavily in the mix of Miami's Jimmy Butler, New Orleans' Brandon Ingram, or Chicago's Zach LaVine. I will tell you this. I will say that, at least for me personally, I don't care as much about going out there and trying to get, a Jimmy Butler or a Brandon Ingram, just because I know how difficult it's going to be to go get one of those guys. I'm a big fan of BI. I do think this. I think if Brandon Ingram's the third best player on your basketball team, you're a championship contender. You can win a championship if BI is your third best player. If he's your best player, I don't like it as much. If he's your second best player, I don't like it as much. If he's your third best player, I believe in BI. I think that's an incredible third best player. But I don't think the Lakers are going to go out there and make a blockbuster move. It's what can you do around the edges and the depth. So I think that part of it, most Laker fans are okay with. But I think at the end of the day, I think Laker fans just want to see, you got to do something. We all know this. We know this squad's 14-12. We know coming into this season, it was basically the exact same team. Add a Dalton Connect in there. And nobody really felt all that crazy about it. So by the time the dust settles, the hope is the Lakers went out there, they made some kind of move, and they got a little bit of time to do it. But I got to be honest with everybody. I don't think most people want to sit around and wait and hope something good happens for the Lakers.